So on slide 7, you had practice questions to answer, and then on slide 8, it actually gave you the answers. This is just showing you how to get those answers. So question 1 was find the missing term. So you're looking for the variable here. So variable A in the ratio to 7, and then an equivalent ratio that was made into 30 and 70. So basically we're looking for how did 7 become the 70? That would have been times by 10. And whatever I do to one side of the ratio, I have to do to the other. So that A to get to 30 would have been times 10. In this case, I can do the inverse to find out what it would have been originally. So the opposite of timesing by 10 is, let's say I divided by 10. 30 divided by 10 would give me 3. Okay, and then that's equal to that 30/70. So just to double check, 7 times 10 would have been 70, 3 times 10 would have been 30. Okay, so A was equal to 3. For letter B, we're looking for the variable B to the ratio of 45, and then the equivalent ratio would have been 5 and 15. So we're looking at the side that we know. How did I get from the 45 to the 15? So the number is shrinking here, so I know that I'm dividing by something. So what can 45 be divided by to get to that 15? Okay, so if you had a calculator in front of you, you could just actually take 45 and divide it by 15, and you'll find that factor that you would be using. So 45 divided by 15 is actually 3. So if I divide 45 by 3, I'm going to get 15. And if I do that to that one side, remember I would have to do it to the other side. So to get from here to 5, I'd be dividing by 3. If I want to know what the original number was, I'm going to use the inverse. So 5 times 3 would give me the original number of 15. So if I just double check that, 45 divided by 3 gives me 15. 15 divided by 3 gives me that 5. So B would be equal to 15. Okay, and last C. So the variable we're looking for is C to the ratio of 8, and then the equivalent ratio of 15 to 6. Okay, so how did I get from the 8 to the 6? So again, that number is getting smaller, so I know I'm dividing by something. And to figure it out, I can just actually figure out what the factor is by taking the numbers that I do know. So 8 divided by 6 is going to give me, I think, 1.33 repeated. So if I was to take 8 and divide it by that 1.33 repeated, I'd get the answer of 6. So that's what our scale factor is. Okay, so 1.33 repeated. That means the same thing is happening to the C to get to the answer of 15, but I want to know what the original one is, so I'm actually going to times it by that, because that will give me back to that original number, which I think is approximately 20. If you were to take as many digits as you could, you'd end up with a 20 over 8 equals 15 to the 6, excuse me. So to double check, 8 divided by 1.33 will give me 6, and 20 divided by 1.33 repeated will give me 15. So that C is equal to 20. Okay, question 2. In the NHL, the ratio of shots taken to goals scored by an all-star player is 9-2. If the player has a 50-goal season, how many shots did he take? So I'm going to start by writing out that ratio, and I'm going to make sure that I identify what each part of it is. So in the NHL, the ratio of shots taken to goals scored. So I'm going to put an S under that, because that's how many shots he took, and the 2 is how many goals he made, so I can identify what each part of the ratio is. Okay. If the player has a 50-goal season, so now we're looking at a ratio where instead of the goals being 2, the goals are 50. How many shots did he take? We need to know how many shots. So how did I get from the 2 to the 50? So my number is growing, I know that. Okay, you could look at this and you might know automatically, okay, that's times 25. If you didn't know that automatically, you could just take your 50 and divide it by 2, and you get 25, and that's how you know what your scale factor is. Okay, so if I did that to one side of the ratio, remember I have to do it to the other side of the ratio. So this was times 25, that's times 25. I'm going to get 200 225. 9 times 25 equals 225. So therefore, he took 225 shots to get that 50 goal season. Okay? All right, number 3. Fatima plants 5 trees for every 3 that Shamar plants. Shamar can plant 6 trees in 1 minute. How many trees can Fatima plant in 1 minute? So I'm going to go through and I'm going to actually see, I can make a ratio here. So Fatima plants 5 trees for every 3 that Shamar plants. So it's a 5 to 3 ratio. That 5 represents what Fatima plants. The 3 represents what Shamar plants. Okay? And then we actually create an equivalent ratio where Shamar is planting 6 trees, and that's, I think, in that 1 minute. That's what that's all equaling in 1 minute. So the equivalent ratio I'm creating now has 6 for Shamar. I need to find out then what would Fatima have if Shamar is planting 6. So how did I get from the 3 to the 6? Okay, that's a simple multiplication. The number is growing. It's times 2. What I do to one side of the ratio, I have to do to the other. 5 times 2 will give me 10. Okay, so therefore, Fatima plants 10 trees in 1 minute. Okay, and number 4. An advertisement says that 4 out of 5 dentists recommend a certain toothpaste for their patients. Okay, suppose 185 dentists were interviewed. How many dentists recommended the toothpaste? So this is an interesting question because you can actually read this as a fraction or as a ratio. So if we say that 4 out of 5 that who recommend it, right? This is the people who recommend it, and that's out of like the total dentists. So you could actually look at this and create instead an equivalent fraction, and that would be one way to solve it, and that's totally fine. So basically we're looking at how did I get from the 5 to the 185, right? Obviously that number is increasing, so I'm going to be multiplying by something. If I want to know what the factor is, take that final number that you're looking for, divide it by what it was originally, and you'll get the factor that it was multiplied by, which I think is 37. Okay, so 5 times 37 is going to give me that 185. What I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. 4 times 37 is going to give me, I believe, 148. Yes. Okay, 148. So this is the fraction way. This is basically saying if there was 185 dentists interviewed, 148 of them would recommend the toothpaste. You can also look at this though as a ratio. So 4 out of 5. And what you have to look at this though is it's not actually a ratio like this. That's not what that's saying. Okay, that's saying in fact 4 dentists to 5 dentists. So that's actually out of 9. What we need is a ratio that's going to equal that 5, right? 4 out of the 5 total, which means I need to find out what number's missing here. So if I have 4 already, I need 1 more to get to that 5. So this is the ratio that you would actually be creating. Okay, and this is what we're saying. These are the people who recommend it, and then these would actually represent the people who don't. And then if we were to look at having a total of 185, how did I get from that 5 to the 185? And that's where that's at, times 37. So in the case of 185 dentists who were surveyed, 37, because 1 times 37, we're using the same scale factor, right, times 37, would say don't do it, and then 4 times 37 would give us back to that 148. So therefore 148 dentists recommended. Okay, so that's 2 ways you could solve that one question. You could look at it as a fraction, the 4 out of 5, and see it as a fraction, or you could look at it as the ratio if 4 out of the total 5 dentists, and then create your ratio about that. Okay, hopefully this helped.